I was giving in the beginning, that's balancing heaven and earth. So please.
I always say that the foundation of the African culture is the African family. So if the African family, if there's something wrong with the family, also there must be something wrong with our culture. So the two need to coexist and actually be a response of and be in a close relationship to each other. We cannot have a culture that teaches familyhood, but we have a familyhood that is broken. So now we need to use our cultural customs to also help to heal. And right now we are living with a lot of brokenness, a lot of wounds, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain in our communities, both from our historical past, but also how that has inflicted on our families. There's a lot of miscommunication in our families. There's a lot of conflict between the generations. There's a lot of youth who feel they cannot speak to their parents. There's a lot of parents who are saying, what's wrong with these young people?
Anyone from Mozambique?
We will strive to bring new values and new life to our people. We will have peace and harmony among us. In self-reliance, we will struggle to resurrect and unify our homeland, Mama Africa.
African value systems are very relevant today, but it's us as adults that need to bring that into a practical sense, because sometimes we tend to talk of issues of African spirituality in a way that it sounds a little bit mystic and a little bit removed from reality. We need to be able to use that spiritual legacy that we represent in our daily conversations. How do you deal with it on a very practical level? What does it mean when a young person is sitting in front of a situation and need to make a choice of whether to try drugs or not to try drugs? What does it mean when a young person has been trying to get a job for years and years and years and doesn't get a job? How do you then use issues of African spirituality as something that can be a response to that young person's life right now and right here? And that's what I feel that we as adults and those of us who work with issues of African spirituality, we have a very strong, there's a demand that we must make these issues very practical and very hands-on.
And we're here to increase not only our Nigeria.
I come from the cradle of mankind, Ethiopia.
As we know, all people have challenges, but especially as a young person growing up in this time and age, there's a lot of challenges that rest on young people's shoulders. And what I have found is that as much as sometimes there are some projects taking care maybe of young people under 20, I find a lot of youth, and even more so in my experience, young African males between the age of 20 and 30 who are really struggling with a lot of issues in terms of sense of self, direction, understanding where they're going in life, pulling pieces together to make a focused life. And part of that, as I would address it, is also we have a very big crisis right now in terms of familyhood and even fatherhood.
You must ask yourself, what am I going to do to bring back Mother Africa?
Shabaka and Samoa.
We will be free and self-determining. We are African people.
We have come to accept, in a way, that many young men are not as focused as they should be. They drift a little bit, they want to look for jobs today, but next week they are tired. They go off and they get frustrated, and now they're going to involve themselves drinking alcohol and smoking drugs or what. And we tend to accept it and say, yeah, but you know, this is what young guys do. If we look at what young people are involving themselves in, many of them are involved in the arts, in music, in photography, in films, in creative work. And you know, creative work has a spirit. So young people are searching for that spirit. And because, I mean, if the information that the young person gets 95% of the time is through a TV or through media or through films or through CDs, obviously that's what's going to occupy that person's mind. So we now also need to be very active to promote issues of spirituality, issues of asking what is the meaning of life, and engage with enthusiasm around those questions. If we do that, I have found that young people are very interested. They want to know, what is my name? Why do we have a clan name? What does that mean? What is a totem? Where do we come from originally? I grew up here, but my grandfather comes from there. They are very interested in these questions.
Okay, another one, say Happy Kwanzaa! Happy Kwanzaa!
been invited to several families just to have talks. We don't call it counseling or anything, but we just come in just to give a different perspective, and which we actually have in our cultures. It's okay to bring in a different family member or someone else to give a different perspective. And I would just recommend that every family does that, even if you don't feel there's a lot of problems, just to bring in that different perspective. And maybe you will find as a parent there's certain things you don't do that you can do. And as a youth, you will find that the way you respond to your parents or don't respond to your parents is also making them understand you in a different way. So I believe that in many cases, there's small things that you can do to just get the communication to go and to bring that healing into the family. Any person who wants to change, that change has to come from within. So our role is just to remind people who you are. Because I find a lot of young people are lacking self-confidence. They talk about themselves as saying, I cannot do this. I've been looking for a job, but I cannot continue. I want to build a stable relationship, but I just can't do it. I want to stop drinking, but I can't do it. We want to move from these I can't do it messages to you can actually do it if you bring some focus into your life and if you can pull yourself together in a way. And not everybody can do that on their own. Sometimes you need a little bit of support, and that's what EBUKHOSINI wants to do there for. I am concerned about many young African men because of the challenges that they face in life. Some of them don't really rise to the fullness of who they are supposed to be. What I'm trying to say is that many think very low of themselves and they think this is all I can do in life. I cannot really achieve much, so let me just do these things for now. What adults, or we as adults, sometimes fail to understand is that young people today have a much shorter life span, or when they think about the future. Maybe when we were children, we like to think about ourselves when we are 40 and 50 and 60. Young people today cannot even think 2-3 years into the future because they don't know what's going to happen. They see their family around them saying that they have been unemployed for a long time. They see their parents having talked about moving to a new house and it has never happened. They see adults in their family saying we're going to save up to buy a car and it hasn't happened. Now they think, so now I must go to school, now I must do this and I'm going to end up being unemployed. Why should I even bother? So a lot of young people don't even dare to look 2, 3, 4 years into the future. They are busy with today. So I'm just saying this so that we can also better understand how to respond to young people. Because sometimes when we sit and say, you must study, you must think about your future, and to them it's just a blank screen. What do you mean tomorrow? I'm trying to face the day today, and now you take it saying I must look into next year and next year and next year. So you must also meet the youth where they are. I want to bring something practical into what they can do right now, today, as we speak, not philosophically about the future. And when you can cover that ground, then you can start to plan, because you need to think about the future, but you need to be where you are at right now so that you can start to prepare for that future. At EBUKHOSINI, we are doing part of a program that is called Shabaka. What that program is about is young men, or youth, let me start with that. It's actually young people who would like some guidance in their life. As we know, all people have challenges, but especially as a young person growing up in this time and age, there's a lot of challenges that rest on young people's shoulders. And what I have found is that as much as sometimes there are some projects taking care maybe of young people under 20, I find a lot of youth, and even more so in my experience, young African males between the age of 20 and 30 who are really struggling with a lot of issues in terms of sense of self, direction, understanding where they're going in life, pulling pieces together to make a focused life.